My name is Lori Leroy. I'm an Academy Ambassador for the STEM Academy, and I'm in the Athletic Training and Physical Therapy pathway. So now I'm just going to ask you to take a moment to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your career field.
Yeah, my name is Neil Rosenbaum. I am here in Kansas City. I am currently full-time employed with an agency called Satis and Phi, and I am head of the Strategic Partnerships Division, which is a lot of client relationships and client management.
Okay. So how did you get to where you are now in your career?
So I work in the field of event production, special events, concerts, entertainment events. And I started in this field. If you go back to high school, I really had a passion for music and sound and lighting. I was really into car stereos. That was a big thing back then. You know, ended up playing in some bands and doing music. And, you know, after college, I realized that I really wanted to work, you know, next to the stage instead of on the stage. And so I was a stagehand. I was unloading and loading trucks, pushing road cases, worked my way up through audio, lighting, scenic, and technical areas, and just kept on asking questions and learning, and have forged a field in the events industry.
That is so cool. So thinking about your daily work, what is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job is that, I promised myself I didn't want to work in like a cubicle or a normal office. Before I was even in college, when I was in high school, some of my favorite jobs was working in sandals on the beach. I grew up in San Diego. And so I was able to make a concession that I put on real shoes, but I knew I didn't want to work in an office. So working in events allows me to experience different physical venues and spaces, and also different clients. I've worked with all sorts of corporate brands, ranging from, your Fortune 500 companies, from Apple, Google, Tesla, Lyft, Uber, and banks and other things. And then also, working on the entertainment side, I've worked in professional sports. I've worked in, entertainment and concerts and musical performances. So really that diversity of daily work and not having a traditional office environment is something that really I see as like one of the biggest upsides to my daily kind of work.
So going off that, is there a least favorite part of your job?
Yes. Like any career, it's about choices and pros and cons. So the plus side, I guess a little bit more about the plus side of the daily career is that it's really fun. People like to talk about it. It's entertaining. It's like, at the end of the day, like, some of my most exciting days at work are literally like showing up and doing a concert. Like, that's fun. The downside is it can be really long hours. A lot of people, are kind of scared when they hear, wow, you were on show site for 18 hours today. Or, you worked 12 days in a row doing, 14 hours a day to produce a show. So the long hours are definitely part of it. When you're working in professional sports or entertainment, you realize, your work day is everyone else's vacation day. So oftentimes, working in the NBA meant working a Christmas game, working a Thanksgiving game. It meant, having to give up some of the more familiar things, in your personal life. Also part of the industry is typically being away from home in a long time. When I did touring and when I do travel, I'm away from home for a long time. Some people view that awesome, great way to see the world. There's no doubt about it. There's a huge plus side to getting to travel and do all that. But the flip side is you're away from home. You're away from your family. You're away from, what, community you have. And so you kind of have to adapt to that. So those are probably, some of the downsides.
So like in high school, what was your first job that you had?
In high school, my first job. So I saw this question. I got a tip off that you were going to ask me this. So my first job was actually, when I was 8 years old, I started helping my grandfather. He had a bakery cafe, and he would say, if there's time for leaning, there's time for cleaning. And, I was 8 years old. I was sweeping. I was, filling up the ice maker with ice. I was scooping cookie dough. So really had a, hands-on work ethic instilled at a young age. So when I was in high school, I think like my first real job with the high school work permit, that's what was needed in California. Your parents had to sign a permit, then you could go to work. I was installing car stereos and doing window tinting and alarm installation in cars. So again, like I was really into like the speakers and the sound and the lighting. Like I didn't know I'd be working in events, but I was certainly intrigued by it all.
So what did you learn from that experience in high school doing all those things?
Um, what I learned in high school from doing all those things, I learned that, there wasn't anyone who taught me how to install car stereos, but every single one of them came with an instruction manual. And, with the right set of tools, and a little bit of time and thinking, you could figure it out. And so there I was 14 years old working in a car stereo installation place, taking apart, complex, Mercedes, BMWs, working on these cars that were difficult to work on, easier cars, and learning as I went and just understanding that if I could, read the instructions and understand what the end goal is, I could start solving problems.
So what did your educational pathway look like?
My educational pathway, went to high school. Didn't had a really rounded high school education. Didn't really specialize in any clubs or anything like that. I ended up attending University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona, and majored in media arts. And media arts was a lot of multimedia production, so everything from digital graphic design to video production and a little bit of music production as well. Really with a focus on arts and production, and then a minor in communications. And then I graduated with that degree, was still with a passion for music and arts, and worked my way up from the entry level position, which is stagehand, and that's kind of how my background played into it. I also took coursework at UCLA. I completed a cinematography program as well, and that was a summer program where we learned a lot about film production, shot composition, just really detailed analysis of what when you're putting together something in a film or video format, how the cinematography plays a huge role in it.
So for students who are looking to do what you do now in the future, what classes do you suggest they take in high school?
So, math is a huge part of everything I do. At its best, when I as a producer, now that I am a more seasoned producer in the field, my daily work is about estimating how long things take, how much things are, how many man hours, how we're going to accomplish goals without having all the complete information. So math plays a huge role in that. Whether I'm calculating, if I've got a 600 square foot space and I have to theme it out for a Nike project, and estimate, well, is that going to cost me $300 a square foot? Is that going to, how much labor am I going to need? So math is a big part of it. um, I would say other critical areas, that can help lead into the field are, involvement in drama, band, cheer, dance. Those all encompass the arts. They all encompass hair, makeup, and wardrobe, lighting and audio, stage design, physically touching instruments and backline. Other clubs like investment clubs, DECA, things like that, again, focus on the accounting side. There's, for every touring concert that goes out, there's a touring accountant. There's someone who gets on and off that tour bus every day, whose job it is to keep the whole show in budget and know how much money they're spending, how much money is coming in, and make sure that the numbers all line up. And so having they look for people with backgrounds in accounting. um, Film club, photography, yearbook, those all play right into production design. Again, hair, makeup, and wardrobe, video. Speech and debate, student government, those are great leads into management and leadership. To be a crew lead, to be a department head, to be an event manager or a venue planner. When I was working at venues, I was technically overseeing a staff of hundreds of people that day that needed to execute something for an 18,000 person crowd at a basketball game. When there were questions, they would come to me. So being able to speak to people and understand that is a huge part of it too. So I think those are some of the areas in high school that could really play into a career.
Oh, thank you. So what is your definition of success?
this is a question I pondered quite a bit. Um, you know, success to me, comes from, being able to feel fulfilled and happy and content with each day. Um, Part of a successful career is always having an ability to keep learning and to find something to learn. Um, and in each job I've worked, always trying to figure out, what is it that I'm here to learn? What can I learn? And to me, that's feels successful to me. Um, I think, outside of work, success is also feeling fulfilled and happy with the choices that we make. And, life is about choices, good choices, bad choices. And, having a lot of gratitude for, for what you have, I think can really help with the feeling of success.
So, what can students do now to help them prepare to get a job in this field? So, like, other than like the class aspect, what can a student do themselves to get prepared?
Yeah. So, some of the key skills for this business are about, adaptability and flexibility. The ability to deal with changes in an environment, peoples, and tasks easily is a must. We've all heard that expression, the show must go on. When you work in this business, it really means the show must go on. It means when things aren't going as they're planned, you have to be able to change and adapt. It means, being unflappable, not getting upset. Things are going to not go as planned. Things are not going to happen as you want. You're going to work with people who are difficult, and you can't let it get to you. So really focusing on that. Ingenuity is a huge part of what we do. Being able to think outside of the box and come up with innovative solutions, really in a moment. Not being able to take a try at something when things are in a pinch. I'd say the other thing that is, really a necessity to work on as a student and prepare yourself for this field is reliability. Others will need to trust you and depend on you. Um, it's your reputation for reliability can really help propel you in this experience, because when someone says, hey, we've got a call time, to be at the venue at 5 a.m. And you need to be there, or need on the bus, like, you need to be there ready to work. When someone says, hey, did you hang that light correctly? Yes, I hung that light correctly. I'm reliable because it could fall on someone. And the last thing about, I would say, as far as one of the best skills to work on, is willingness to work cooperatively. um, you need to know how to work effectively with different types of people, and very different types of people, very, very different types of people. From, a corporate side, you're working with the C-suite executives, from the CEOs and CMOs, to stagehands, or to, makeup and wardrobe folks. Or on the touring side, you're working with people from all over the world. There's language barriers, there's cultural barriers, um, and just really being able to, have an open understanding of how to, achieve a goal with people, because, you're all there to produce the same show.
So, do you mind talking about maybe your favorite project that you've done in this job or industry?
My favorite project that I've done in the job. So there's so many good ones. I think, from a, we'll start with the heartwarming one. In 2020, right before the pandemic, I did a project with a corporate client where we surprised a bunch of kids in Harlem, New York, with LeBron James. And he came out, and LeBron gifted these children free, like 3 years free of a bike share program in New York City. And LeBron talked about how his bike was so critical in helping him make it to practice on time and getting to where he needed to be. And this company in particular, wanted to give back to the community and invited these kids. Nigel Sylvester was also there, who's a BMX rider as well. And basically, we set up the gym, and the company's CEO was talking to the kids, and the kids were, you know, okay, boring CEO, whatever. And then in walks LeBron, and everyone just went wild. And it was such a heartwarming event to see the surprised look on everyone's faces and know that we were really making a difference for these kids. That was probably, a really high point in my career, from, giving back and doing good.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you want to say to students before we close out this interview?
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing that we didn't talk about, and that's, some potential roadblocks for this industry. What's going to keep you from really making it in this industry? Um, and I think that's important to talk about. You know, at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun, and we talked about the fun, we talked about the cool things, but it's a career. This is professional. You got to keep it professional. You know, um, when you're doing something with a celebrity, this is not about getting their autograph. You're there serving a function that day. If you want to be a fan, go buy a ticket. If you want to work and be part of the production, it's a career. The other thing that is, just still present in this industry is substance abuse. You guys are in high school. I'm sure you guys have heard about that. Um, it's a real problem in this industry when, people are going out on the road away from their families and, maybe not having the best plan for how to feel supported and be healthy, which goes into my next kind of roadblock is coming up with a mental and physical health plan. You've got to be, cognizant about how you're going to take care of yourself when you're working 8 days in a row, when you're working on the holidays, when you're not seeing your family. How are you going to eat healthy? How are you going to exercise? How are you going to make sure mentally you're healthy and able to stay this? And then lastly, the roadblock is this is a small business. You don't get a lot of shots to, redo your reputation. Everyone knows everyone. The amount of people who work in entertainment to event production, it is relatively a small community. And it's a lovely community. It's supportive, it's engaging. It's just cool that I can pick up the phone and talk to people who do similar things to what I do. And we've been on similar projects, and you run into people on different event sites, throughout your career. Um, but if you're not paying attention to how you're contributing and how you're keeping it professional, your reputation will precede you and not in a good way. So I would say those are uh, those are kind of some of the roadblocks that I would say.
Again, so thank you so much for doing this. It was very pleasure talking with you and talking about your job. And also, thank you for supporting the businessmen and women, the future businessmen and women at Truman High School and other high schools in the school district. I just wanted to thank you again.
Of course. Is
Okay.
that the interview?
Yeah, that's it. They like to
Is it?
keep it short and sweet, so like we keep kids' attention, I guess.
All right. Well, okay, director cut. Lori, do you have any questions about what I do or want to talk about anything?
So like this job seems like really interesting. If there's like internships or stuff like that that like students can get involved in.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways in. Um, and if we're still rolling, great. Uh, you know, there's event production agencies. All right. A lot of the big companies don't produce events on their own. They turn to partners to help produce their projects. So for corporate events in town in Kansas City, there's definitely a handful of agencies that offer, I'm sure they offer internships, into this lifestyle. And I know, that you can definitely find them. Your venues are a great place to start. If there's a venue that you know of, you know, they're going to need help at some point, whether it's a volunteer, whether it's working in the box office. Every single show site generally has to eat. Caterers service these projects. Being part of the backstage production and being the caterer who has to serve the touring crew breakfast, has to serve them lunch. Um, there's companies that do event rentals and furniture and tents and different parts like that. I mean, we didn't really break down the different parts of the industry, but there's the technical fields, which is audio, video, lighting, rigging, IT, special effects, pyro, lasers, those types of things. There's the kind of crew side, whether it's ushers, housekeeping, security, stagehands, facility staff, the people, at the T-Mobile Center downtown, like someone's in charge of keeping the air conditioning and the heating working. They're part of that show and production. They're part of the facility. They could do it in an office building. They could do it at an arena. But at the end of the day, when a tour manager comes in and says, hey, it has to be 72 degrees on the stage in order for the talent to play, because that will be in the rider, there's now a different level of importance, to just being a facilities engineer versus someone who's keeping an office building cool. On the stage side, there's more parts of carpentry, being a carpenter, being the person who actually physically builds the sets, logistics, being able to book tour, lots of hotel rooms, flights, being on the management side, you know, scheduling. And then on the artist side, the artists, you know, have, you know, there's ticket sales, there's venue staff, there's promoters. So I would say for internships, companies in the business in to keep it regionally and local in Kansas City would be event rental companies. Go to your venues, go, you know, knock on the door at the T-Mobile Center, you know, see what's going on at the Midland venue, the KC Starlight. These all are all little venues, and I'm new to Kansas City, so I don't know all the venues, but it can be a small venue and it can offer tons of experience for someone who just wants to show up and learn how audio works. And hey, can I hang out with the audio engineer tonight and see how this works? Um, so yeah, great question. What else you got?
I also heard you mention about the NBA team. What NBA team did you work with?
I work with the Magic in Orlando.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, I work with the Magic in Orlando and every team that came to play with them. And I've done a lot of work with Nike and their NBA. So I've done NBA All Star several years with Nike, where you know a constant stream of NBA players usually show up and do that. So
So, like, have you moved occasionally for your job to like for different job positions or stuff like that?
yes, in fact, that's probably something we could have talked about as a pro and a con. Um, there has been a lot of moving, especially in sports. You know, working in professional sports typically means a lot of moving because in order to kind of advance in your career, depending on the team, you're going to have to move to a different team. The beauty of that is, you know, people who I've worked with at different teams are now all over the U.S. working at different teams. So it's like it's cool to see. I have a close friend who's working in the MLS with the Timbers, who I was talking to last week. You know, they're going to the championship. Like they're super excited to be able to share that with them. But yeah, moving is definitely part of the job in sports and potentially entertainment. So
One more question. So I
keep it
heard,
coming. I'm good for another 6 minutes or so. So I'm happy to help you.
but so I heard you say that there was you sometimes a language barrier, culture barrier. How do you work around that when you work with clients?
Yeah, I mean, language barrier can be tough. You know, if you're dealing with guests on the guest services side, you have attendees at your show that just don't understand. You know, I've worked with uh, you know attendees who were deaf before and were having a problem, and you know, at that time I didn't know any sign language, and we were trying to communicate, and we ended up kind of having a written conversation back and forth. Um, Culturally, you know, you just want to try to be sensitive to, you know, working in those differences. You know, I did an event with the Singapore government where I think chewing gum is like frowned upon or culturally not good in their country. And you know, backstage, I put a little snack table and we put some bubble gum on the table, thinking like, hey, you know, they might want to try this out. You know, it's not really good in their country, but maybe they try it out here. Um, they didn't like that, so we put it away. um, but you know, at the end of the day, I think it's having that open appreciation to getting to work with different folks is really a cool experience. And when you realize that people come from different cultures and different backgrounds and contribute in a, you know, way, you know, more than just doing things the way you've always done it, um, that could be a good way. I didn't really answer your question because there's no set of tools to get language barrier, culture barrier. I think it's just being open minded and staying goal focused.
So like, did you pick up a tiny bit of sign language or another language or like?
So I speak a good amount of Spanish just because I grew up with Spanish in my household. I also I have three young kids, and with the kids we started learning sign language because babies can speak sign language. So I've definitely learned some sign language, not fluent at all. You know, I know a few basic signs. Um, so
Well, I just wanted to thank you again so much. It's been
yeah,
talking with you.
of course. And Brian's got my contact information. So, you know, for anyone who's watching this or watched till the end, you know, reach out if you have any questions. I'm based here in Kansas City and happy to help.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye. Take care.
You too.
Bye bye.
All right.